I'm Vernon Felton, Senior Editor at Bike Magazine. We're at Bike's 2015 Bible Bike Test. We're coming to you from Crow's Feet Commons in Bend, Oregon, and today we're talking about Norco's Range C 7.2. Bike retails for $5,465. We're looking at a primarily carbon frame. A bunch of really cool components, including SRAM X1, single ring drivetrain, guide brakes, pike fork, 160 millimeters of travel. It is truly an all mountain bike. But again, this is just spec sheet mumbo jumbo. All that matters is what you guys thought of the ride.
Oh, they nailed the spec on this bike.
Yeah.
They nailed the geometry of this bike. They nailed the ride of this bike. Oh man, Mike.
Yeah, I feel like I'm becoming a Canadian apologist.
Me too.
Rocky Mountain, Norco.
Oh, this bike was so much fun to ride. This was, I'm a conservative old man in a lot of ways in terms of how I ride, and I found myself
The Bob Dole, the bike wheel?
I saw you ride on this
Oh,
bike.
no.
You look like a different man.
Baby's arm holding an apple. Yeah, I am.
I didn't even think it was you.
See?
So
I threw shapes.
You threw shapes, it turned you into a...
It turned me into a younger Bob Dole without the fake arm.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. I was like manualing up into things and jumping across things that otherwise on other bikes I was just kind of rolling off of, and I didn't care what I launched it off of. It was sweet. I loved this bike.
Now, what do you think enabled you to do that on this bike?
Haven't got a clue.
Don't care. Haven't got a clue. It doesn't matter.
On paper, we discussed this. On paper, it is identical to a couple other bikes in this
Yep.
test that I have sort of had issues with.
I agree.
Yeah.
But the suspension to me, the only thing, one negative I had of this bike,
Okay.
it is basically a horse link.
Yeah. They got around the patent for years on that one, but yes.
Right. But,
Chain stay
essentially,
pivot.
chain stay pivot.
Yep.
Linkage up here. Seated pedaling, awesome. It climbs okay for its intent and is indifferent to your pedaling loads and is still reactive regardless of whether you're cranking damping on or running it open. Standing pedaling, every pedal stroke, it'll kind of go whoop, whoop, whoop. But that's not actually like suspension kinematics doing anything. It's just sort of body weight and scooch, scooch, scooch because it's a pretty plush bike. But that's the only thing I can complain about it. The suspension in every other respect worked so well. 160 millimeters of travel that was really compliant and I thought buttery over a very wide range of terrain, but at the same time, it was snappy. Like you could pull it up into things. It was playful. You could change lines. You could whip it around stuff. You could bomb straight down things that would hold it really tightly, or you could just drift around and chatter off stuff. And it didn't. It was a great bike. I loved it.
Well, without getting too techie on it, there are some things that had a 16.7 inch chainstays, which is incredibly tight.
Very short, but still low, 45.9 inch wheelbase.
Yeah, basically a 40. Let's just call it 46 inch.
And
wheelbase,
the
right?
medium
46.
test bike had a 24 inch top to it.
23 and a half, if I'm not
23 and a
mistaken. But yeah, 66 degree head angle, right? 13.5 inch bomb bracket, for, reasonably low, kind of in the middle of the range. Kind of a sporty bike. You talked about the rear suspension. It has a Monarch Plus, RockShox Monarch Plus.
Debonair, right?
I think it's a Debonair, yeah.
I think it's a Debonair also, and that makes a big difference in that sort of in and out of SAG compliance. That's what it really feels in.
Yeah.
Was there any weak point? We talked about the frame and in geometry. Was there any weak point in the component spec?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay, price on this bike.
$5,465. That includes a reverb stealth. Again, the pike
What-
up
what
front.
happened
And guide brakes.
Yeah, guide brakes.
Guide brakes. And it actually had, I want to say, sort of a housebound wheel set. That was a one sort of
It did.
price
There's
concession.
a Formula front
That's
hub
what I
on
thought.
it.
There you
Which
go.
if
Maybe
you wanted picnics.
it was the sun rim, but it was
Sun rims.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah.
Here's I guess the bottom line. It was not a big name wheel set. It wasn't an Easton or FSA or what have you.
Maxxis
So
high roller tires.
great tires.
I love that tire out here.
Yeah, high roller twos, right?
And we rode in the
Fantastic
snow
grip.
today, man. It was better than a fat bike. It was. I'll stand by that.
Wow.
Are you throwing down on the fat
Yeah,
bike people?
I'm throwing down.
You're throwing down.
on
Fat
See
bike
who
hater.
gets
What if
down.
they made a fat
See who
bike
gets
high
down the
roller?
hill faster. Max's high rollers.
Okay. Any weak point in the bike's handling? You said out of the saddle climbing. Anything else?
I would agree with that too. I did feel like that I tended to use the compression damping on the shock adjustment.
Were you running
and,
like basically the trail mode, kind of in the center position, sort of?
on the Monarch? I just sort of I did run it in the center position, and then did run it locked for a little bit too. But
and it doesn't lock all the way.
no,
Like,
it doesn't.
still
That's
moves
one of the
around.
things I like about that.
I felt the bike had a full 6 inches of travel and it's 6 and change, 160, and I thought it handled the drops really well. I didn't think it was the plushest, for lack of better
It
words.
just came out of moderator mode.
Oh,
You did.
I did. Well, I rode the bike. You know, I'm riding.
did.
I
Are you
did.
being
You were
subjective?
breaking down the fourth wall.
I'm breaking.
I don't know if-
busting it
is
down.
that-
Well, I'm
is
riding a
that
lot. I'm riding.
subjectivity?
You're the only one
allowed?
allowed to make eye contact with the camera. Do it. Break down the wall.
Great.
Breaking
God.
it down. Well, I'm riding a lot of the
That just
bikes.
happened, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm riding a lot of the bikes, and the one thing I noticed was that it felt massively controlled. It was great on the drops. I felt incredibly confident. I think the geometry's absolutely dialed. It didn't feel like the plushest bike, but it also felt like it had more pop and it was a little more playful than some of the longer travel bikes that we had. It was cool.
The Canadians have like when you buy a bike, you know, from a Canadian company, I think it just comes with fun. I mean, like
They just squeeze it into
I
the
don't
down.
know.
I don't know what they're doing up
Did they
there.
steal it from the Swiss?
Maybe. But the bikes are all fun, and the geometry and the way they design these bikes is just fun. You know, that is something that this Norco had in spades.
Oh my God, yeah.
But you know, we haven't talked about the fact that you can get this as a frame set, which I think is super cool.
Absolutely. You can get it as a frame set. There's 6 range models, and if someone's like $5,465 is too much for me, the line begins at about $2,200.
Complete bike.
Yes, that's with the aluminum frame, and they get more expensive. You can buy as a frame only, and it's absolutely very reasonable when you get
Yes.
down to
You
it.
have to pay attention though, because one of the frames is going to have a front derailleur mount on it, and the other one isn't.
Right, that's true.
So, yeah, don't get the wrong one.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you don't want to buy the full bike, you have your parts kit, you can build this thing up, and it's a frame worth building up.
I agree.
If you want to know more about the Norco range line, go check out Bike Magazine's Bible Bike Test. If you want to see more bike test videos, go to bikemag.com.